This is now the beginning of, I think, one of our more popular segments. Last Rants here on the Comic Culture Warrior YouTube channel. So this is where we kind of wrap things up and, leave it till next week. So,
Oh, yeah.
Shoot.
Why are we going to rant? Going back to this Punisher #1. Man, it's getting a lot of coverage in these segments. If anybody out there knows the answer to this, I would greatly appreciate knowing. So the Sentry shows up in this issue, obviously, and the Punisher is going to fight the Sentry because the Sentry is guarding Norman Osborn.
Right.
Now, last time I saw the Sentry, it was in Secret Invasion number 3 or 4, and the Sentry flew off into space crying.
right.
And that was the last time anybody saw him. They didn't bring him back in at the end of Secret Invasion or anything. I didn't see him in Secret Invasion at the end. But I want to know how he's back. And again, I'm not blaming Rick Remender from this because I'm sure he wanted to use the Sentry, but Marvel's editorial just never thought of explaining how the Sentry came back. Where did he go? Why is he whining like a baby? Like, why is, I just want to know if I missed. I've been reading the Avengers books, which seem to be the most important books in the Marvel Universe, and I didn't see him come back in there. So if somebody out there knows how the Sentry come back, just as like a nerd nitpick, I would really like to know. Or if that's just something that Marvel just decided not to tell us.
Yeah, because we don't know anything. Because that's something that we obsess over as fans. Why do we get so caught up in continuity?
I don't know. You know what?
We just
you know what would
don't
have been
get it.
awesome if they would have reprinted the story where the Sentry came back.
Oh,
in the back
that would have been cool.
And then I would have been like, oh,
There
that's
you
why
go.
they reprinted this because I wanted to know where the Sentry was. And thank you.
Because there, Jeff Loeb, again, back to him, he referenced a 7-year-old blogger who does reviews on comic books, and he says that kid really gets it. He gets it.
Well, that's the mentality that Jeff Loeb is writing for, is 7-year-olds.
But the 7-year-old
And
gets
that's
it.
it. And we touched on this on the last few segments, but I want to talk about this, about the Jeff Loeb Word Balloon interview, about him ripping on Kirkman. You've heard it now.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah.
And the snidness coming from this man, ripping on Kirkman. I wanted to. What did he say? What did he actually? He said that Robert Kirkman and his comics aren't relevant.
Because he doesn't sell as many comics.
Because he doesn't sell
Right.
as many. Because everyone knows that comics can't be relevant without them selling over 100,000 copies.
And then, that's the other thing, too, because when John Suntress, who, by the way, tried his best,
God bless that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Word Balloon, and that Loeb interview, like, I couldn't even listen to it all. It was just, and God bless Suntress for trying to keep people interested in what was going on.
But Suntress said, but Kirkman makes a living on it.
Right.
And which he does.
But
then Loeb came back with the old, well, where does he live? In Kentucky?
Yeah.
Like try
Georgia
living
or
in
something like that,
try living in New York or Los Angeles and see if that goes. And that to me,
What a fucking prick.
that was really that was out of
I mean,
line.
there was
That
some
out of
venom
line.
being spewed towards Kirkman, and I don't know what it is about that.
If it was meant in jest, I mean, if he was trying to be funny, it didn't come across as funny.
No,
at all.
I just think that Jeff Loeb, and I talked to you about this before, and yeah, I fucking hate the guy, and yeah, I could probably say this and think it in my mind, but I truly think that Jeff Loeb, on some level, is kind of jealous that he cannot write stories that Kirkman can write. Now, does everything that he write, is it fucking gold? No, it's not. But Invincible is probably the best comic on the racks right now. And he writes very enjoyable stories. Even with the stuff they did for Marvel, it was very enjoyable. And I don't get that. For Loeb to be saying that. And this is like, it's the worst writer in comics, calling one of the best writers in comics not relevant. I just don't understand where that comes from. I mean, obviously Jeff Loeb is so full of his own shit that you need to live in LA to oh my God, for that to mean something to anybody. Like, if you're writing in comics, if you're doing independent movies, you're not really in the game because you're doing small independent movies. Until you hit the big time and you live in LA, maybe you can talk to me then, get back to me then. But
yeah, he made some comments. I mean, it's obvious that Jeff Loeb is in a different sort of. He's in a different league. You know, he hangs out with Hollywood writers. He says he would rather do, you know, in the amount of time it would take him to do an icon book or whatever, he could be working on a screenplay or a pilot and stuff like that. And while I respect that, I respect Loeb, and trust me, I mean, part of me is jealous. I wouldn't mind being a guy who can spend a year of his life working on a pilot or it still comes across as very elitist and snobbish to the rest of us who, you know, who like all these different types of books. And I'm sorry, I just cannot relate to Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, and
as a writer, I can't.
Now that I remember, like at the very beginning of the interview, he's like, "Is that noise bothering you at all?" The centrist, and he's like, "Oh no," he's like, "Well, I'm having like an addition put on to my pool house or something like that." And I was like, "That's how you start off the interview?" Like, wow, like is that noise bothering you? I couldn't hear anything, obviously, but it seems like one of those things. Like, well, I have an addition being put onto my house, my beautiful home with a swimming pool and a house in there.
Which kind of annoys me. Someone who's trying to become a comic book writer and the job that I would love to have, and the job that I would love to make a living from, is being treated as a part-time job by somebody else. You know, I would love to do comics full-time. I know that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. There's no way I'm ever going to be able to, again, land a job at Marvel or DC, because I'm just not the name. I haven't been able to prove myself, and I haven't been able to get noticed. I haven't been part of a hit television show or a movie. I'm sorry. I mean, I have a lot of respect for those guys who've been working in television and movies who've decided, hey, I want to do comics now. Hey, more power to you. But I'm sorry, but when they have to put your name and say you were on Entourage or one of the writers of Entourage, guess what? You're not that name. Does Grant Morrison have to put down, you know, Grant Morrison, writer of whatever? No. His name sells itself. Not the show that he worked on or anything like that.
Well, I mean, look at two guys who came from Hollywood from doing TV shows, Mark Guggenheim and Matt Fraction.
Yeah, they don't need to say
They don't need to tell you how great they are. They just tell fucking good stories.
Right.
And they let the work speak for themselves.
Yeah. You don't have to have so-and-so, writer of whatever, to do it. Like Alan Heinberg. Someone had to tell me the guy worked on the OC. I didn't know it. But you know what? I liked his writing. His stuff sold me. Now, if he could have only finished anything, that would have been nice. And Damon Lindelof, I hear these rumors that Wolverine Hulk is finally going to happen somewhere. You know what?
I'll believe it when I see it.
I'll believe it when I see it. I'll believe it when I see it. So, no. I'm spent. Thanks, folks, for joining us. This has been our Last Rants, and this is it for this week's segment on the Comic Culture Warrior YouTube channel. As always, I look forward to your comments, your responses, and stuff. And thanks for bearing with us, folks. This has been...
It's been something.
It's been something. Hope to see you next time.
Yeah.